In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create your own relaxation neck wrap. It's a quick and easy project that's perfect for beginners and also make great gifts. I'm going to show you how you can fill it with dried rice and dried lavender for a lovely scent, and it's perfect to put in the microwave for a heat pad or to put it in your freezer for a cold pack. So let's get started and see what we're going to need in order to make this neck wrap. To make our neck wrap, we're definitely going to need some fabric. So I have 3 different color 100% cotton fabric here, yellow, gray, and blue. And out of each of these, I'm cutting out 4 strips that are 2.5 inches by 10 inches. So I have 4 strips of that size of the yellow, the gray, and the blue. I also have a little scrap of light color cotton here. This is what I'm going to make my little label out of, and some fusible webbing. Now the fusible webbing, you don't really need that much, so it's optional. It's just to help us get our label on. Then we're going to need our usual sewing tools. We have our sewing gauge, our scissors, our fabric marker, our pins and needle, and also not shown here is the iron and ironing board. You're going to need 4 cups of uncooked dried rice. And in this mixture of 4 cups, I've also mixed in dried lavender to give it a very nice scent. And if you want to have it a little stronger, you can also add a little bit of lavender oil to that. Then you're going to need some embroidery floss and some cotton thread. I'll be making this project on the Bernina B215. We do not need any special attachments. We're just going to be using the #1 presser foot. So it's a great and easy project for beginners. So the first thing you're going to do is take all your strips and you're going to place them in the order right side facing up in the order you would like them to go. So I'm going to go blue, yellow, gray, and then I'm going to repeat blue, yellow, gray. So once you have them laid out, we're then going to stitch them all together so we have one long strip. So I would start here, flip it so it's right side to right side with the one next to it, and go ahead and pin this edge right here because this is where we're going to stitch our 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then it's going to be attached and open like this. Then we would take the next one, which would be yellow, and we're going to pin it to the right side of the gray one or whatever one you have next. And then we do the same thing. You pin this edge and you stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we have this one, all 3 of these attached, and I'm just going to go all down the line until I have all 12 strips stitched together. I'm doing my 1/4 inch seam allowance using a regular width stitch, and after you finish stitching all your strips together, go ahead and press all your seams open. Don't forget to back stitch on the beginning and the end. Cut a piece out of your fusible webbing that's 1 inch by 3 inches. So one side has the webbing, one side has the paper. The paper side is going to be up towards you, the webbing is going to be down towards the wrong side of the fabric. If you get fusible webbing that has paper on both sides, you'll notice that one side the paper will come off pretty easily. So you can go ahead, cut out your size, and then take off the side that comes off. So you still have a paper side that's facing up towards you. Then you're going to take a hot iron, and this is again cotton, so I'm using my cotton setting, and I'm going to place it over the area where my webbing is, just for a few seconds. Lift it up, and it should be sticking now to my fabric. Now I can go ahead and cut out my fabric so it's the same size of my webbing. If you're not using webbing, you can go ahead and cut a piece out of your fabric that's 1 inch by 3. Next, we're going to take our fabric portion, and you can see I've pressed my seams open, and on one short side you're going to fold it in half with the right side facing out. So this is the short side, and these sides right here, this is the long ways of the fabric. And you're going to take your label that you just did, peel off the paper backing, and it should come off pretty easily. Otherwise it means you need to add more heat. So you can feel the webbing attached to my label here, and I'm going to place it right in the middle of one of the end panels here. Just hold it or pin it, and if you're not using webbing, go ahead and pin it into place. I'm going to undo the fold so it's just a single layer there, and it's all in the same spot. Make sure that it's even. Then reapply your hot iron to fuse your label to your fabric. I'm now going to stitch around the perimeter of my label, and for this I'm going to use a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to change my machine to the zigzag, and I'm just going to shorten the length a little bit so the stitches appear a little bit closer together than they would in the normal setting. And I'm using a contrasting thread because I want to make sure this looks like a decorative stitch. Using your fabric marker or pencil, go ahead and write or draw something that you would like to put on the label. And then I'm going to use my embroidery floss and needle to go ahead and stitch that out. And I'm just going to do, since I'm doing something simple, I'm just going to go ahead and do a back stitch. So I'm going to start on my R, and you can see I didn't start all the way here at the end. I went a little ways in, and then I'm going to go back to the top portion of the R there. And then I'm going to go a little ways away from that stitch. And then go back to the end of my first stitch. So that's all it is. So my next one, I'm going to start down here, and then I'm going to go back up to the end of my second stitch. And go ahead and stitch all this out, and then we'll move on to the next part. With the right side facing up, go ahead and fold it in half lengthwise and pin all the way around. So we're going to go ahead and stitch our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure that all your seams line up, and you're going to start, we'll start at the end that does not have the label. So on the opposite end, this side, between the fold and maybe 2 inches to 3 inches, we're not going to sew. So even though it's pinned, you're going to start about right here. So you're going to stitch your 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to pivot, stitch along here, pivot, and stitch all the way to the fold. Now the reason why we're leaving this opening is so we're able to flip the whole thing right side out. Clip your corners and turn your neck wrap right side out. Next, you're going to take 1 cup of your uncooked rice and dried lavender mixture, and you're going to put it into your neck wrap. If you have a funnel, it definitely makes it a lot neater to do it. You can just slip it into the opening here and then pour the rice into the funnel. You're going to shake it so it reaches all the way down to the very bottom of the neck wrap. After the cup of rice is in there, I push it all the way down to the bottom, and I put pins right at the top of where the rice is because I want to make sure that the rice stays in this section so I can go ahead and stitch down here without having rice getting in the way. Just make sure that you feel along where you're going to be stitching to make sure there's no little rice pieces stuck in there. And what I do is I do a stitch for every 3rd strip that I have. So it goes purple, yellow, gray. So this is the 3rd one. So I'm going to do a stitch right in the middle of this seam right here. Now this side has the fold, this side has the seam. I'm going to start where the seam is, and I'm going to stitch this way towards the fold. I use my straight pins. I go through the seam on the top side, and then I check on the back to make sure that it's going through the seam in the back. So that way when I do my stitch, it's going to be even on this side as well. So it should end up right in the middle of that seam line on the back, since we're only looking at the top side when we sew it. So I'm going to go ahead and take it to my machine so I can go ahead and do that stitch. Once that stitch is done, don't forget to back stitch at the top part and here at the fold line. You can go ahead and remove all these pins and let the rice kind of spill into this section. And then we're going to go ahead and do the next section and the next section. So there's going to be 4 different compartments in this neck wrap. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch right in between that seam there using a regular stitch. And again, I'm starting from the seam side and working my way towards the fold. When I put rice into my last section, so this is the end that has the opening here, go ahead and do the same thing where you put the pins to keep the rice in one section so we're free to work in this area without rice coming out. And then you're just going to fold this all inward 1/4 inch, just like your seam allowance. You're going to pin it all up here, and then you're going to do a stitch right across the top, right next to the edge, all the way across. So then that's going to stitch our hole closed, and it's going to finish our neck wrap. And if you want it to be consistent, you can go ahead and do the same stitch at the very other side of the neck wrap as well. That way both sides look the same. Here is the completed neck wrap. Now the finished length is about 23 inches. If you wish for yours to be longer, all you have to do is just add some extra strips. We hope you enjoy your new relaxation neck wrap.